Welcome to the Creators Adventure, where we interview creators from around the world, hearing their stories about growing a business. Today's guest is Juliana Garcia, and we're going to talk about how she grew a $2.5 million business while focusing on organic growth. Hey everyone, I'm Brian McAnulty, the founder of Heights Platform. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, we're here today with Juliana Garcia. She is a Latina online entrepreneur who has created a $2.5 million business helping skilled coaches clarify their marketing message to attract premium clients. She pioneers a cutting-edge client-centric approach that breaks old-school marketing rules and focuses on selling through intimacy, integrity, strong mindset tools, and zero BS. Juliana's early marketing career involved working on the launch of the movie Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy, and Napoleon Hill's work has had a strong influence on her approach. Her company is focused on helping coaches set new standards for what's possible in the coaching industry and to create a rich, fulfilling, and sustainable business without burnout. Juliana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. So fun.
Yeah, of course. So my first question is, what would you say is the biggest thing that either you did or you are doing that has helped you to achieve the freedom to do the things you enjoy?
Oh, great question. I would say the first thing has been decisiveness and commitment as internal feelings that have allowed me to just continue to move forward through the days when I didn't have nowhere near $1 million, $2 million, almost $3 million business, back when I was like really not sure where the next client was going to come from. Determination and commitment were the feelings that got me through. And even now, as I grow bigger and a bigger team and there are different challenges, the same feelings that I cultivated back then are paying off so much because I'm able to move through things a lot faster than what I used to. It used to take me like a week to really feel convicted and feeling fully committed to getting through an obstacle and like moving through all the drama that comes with it. And now it's like 10 minutes. And I know I don't even doubt myself. I don't even doubt that I am going to move through it at this point. And so I think that those are two internal feelings that have allowed me to create the success that I have today.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer. So we noticed actually on your website that you mentioned you were born into perfectionism. Can you explain a little bit, like how did that affect your mindset when it came to starting your own business?
Oh my God. Yeah. So I was like the typical, for those of you who have grown up with very strict parents, I was a typical like daughter, oldest daughter that needed to get A grades on everything. And if I got a B on anything, I would be grounded. And so from when I was very little, I grew up thinking that what I needed to do in order to earn my parents' love was to be the best, was to be great at everything. And I did. They did love me when I had straight A's, and when I didn't, then they didn't. So it was it was very conditional. And so as you move into entrepreneurship and you begin to understand that nobody's going to come and give you an A+, nobody's going to come and tell you you're doing a great job, it's very confronting because you are the only person that can do that for yourself. You're the only one that can say, you try your best, so proud of you, and keep going. I'm committed. We're committed to this. And so the dialogue had to really change for myself, because when I didn't have this new dialogue that I have, the way that perfectionism was showing up, it was by having me I would just delay and focus on things that didn't really make me money. Like perfectionism really is one of the things that probably kept me broke for so long, right? For like 2014, 2015, I was in full perfectionism mode. I wanted to create a course and I wanted it to be perfect. And I thought that creating the course first and doing everything with all the bells and whistles would be, the best way forward. And then, I quickly had to wake up from that illusion, and I had to learn that even if I created a program and 10 people bought it and 8 didn't like it, but 2 hated it, I would have to be happy. I would have to give myself a gold star and say, hey, you can make everybody happy, and that's okay. And you try your best, and we get to reiterate, and we get to keep going, evolving the offer, optimizing. And it sounds easy, but when you're a perfectionist, it feels like you're gonna die if people don't approve of you, if people don't tell you that you're doing a great job. And so it really got in the way of me making money, having ease, allowing myself to be more creative with more ease, and the most important thing, it got in the way of me learning how to market myself effectively, quickly, because I was also in the perfectionism around that.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I'm curious, like, do you ever struggle with that now? Like, does a thought ever come back to you and you realize to yourself, I'm being too like perfectionist about this? And if it does, like, what are you able to tell yourself to get out of that and get back into the business?
That's a great question. I think at this point, perfectionism shows up more in the form of standards that I have. So I have certain standards for myself, for the business, for the people around me, for the people that I relate to, my relationships. And so it's not so much that I would call it perfectionism. I just have high standards
Mm.
for what I want. And I'm very committed to meeting those standards. And so sometimes that meeting of the standard can get a little bit into the perfectionism, and I have to catch myself. And I notice it when I have revisited something a lot of times, more than I normally do. When I'm
Mm.
like really trying to perfect it and perfect it and perfect it. And like for example, a title for a 5-day challenge that I do 5-day challenges to launch my offer. And it works so well. And I know the importance of having a good promise. Like I know. And so as a marketer, I'm like, I'm going to really think about this title so that I make sure that I feel really good about it. And sometimes the first title that I come up with is the best out of thinking it for 3 days, right? I'm like, I
Mm.
always go back to the first option. So I notice and I'm like, oh, interesting. I was overthinking, but it doesn't take me as long anymore. So I'm really gentle with myself when I do it, but I also notice I'm like, oh, there I was doing the perfectionist thing. Okay, that's okay. I have love and support for myself. It's okay. It's not a problem, which is a very different kind of voice that I had before, which was like, you were a perfectionist for so long. There you are over. Like I would just beat myself up for being a perfectionist. Now I'm like, oh, that's so cute. I was just overthinking and it makes total sense. I want it to work. So like, okay, cool. But like, it's okay. It's not the thing that's going to make it work. What's going to make it work is my energy, is how I show up, is how I talk about it. Like the title can be like a bland ass thing, but if the person who says it has the energy, the conviction, the passion, the power, the solidity in the way that they talk about it, then like it could be anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I think like I'm a bit of a perfectionist myself. I struggle with it, I guess, in a slightly different way. It wasn't only like the approval of myself feeling like I had to be perfect with it, but also feeling like that I know it can be to whatever level. So like I have to get it there for my potential customers or whoever's going to see it. And
Yeah.
I eventually realized and became easier like for me to catch myself when like especially in once I grew to the point of having a team and realizing like not everybody's going to do everything exactly as like it is in my head or my vision for it every single time, and being able to see that and realize like, well, when does it like actually matter? And there's a lot of times where like it is actually good enough, and like no one, I would say like especially to somebody who's starting out and worried about like everything being perfect, no one's going to care about it as much as you are. And so it's probably like other people would still be fine or happy with whatever you did. And like you said, like
Yeah.
there's so many other parts to it where chances are if
Yeah.
you're starting out, the thing that you might be spending all this time on caring so much about, it might not actually be the most important part of whatever it is that you're building
Yeah.
anyway. And so I would suggest that, I guess, as a way to kind of overcome that.
Yeah. 100%. I agree.
So what then kind of led you to decide that like you want to start your own coaching business, and what made you focus on like this idea of like the authentic marketing?
So I was I learned marketing from the OGs, meaning Jay Abraham. I would write sales letters by hand because my first business was a software company that I built from scratch, and I got funding for the software company simply by using copywriting as a mode of selling something that basically didn't even exist. So I learned a lot about direct response copywriting, and I got into the world of online marketing, and it was just very much like you needed to have a big budget to run ads to a thing. And if the thing didn't convert, then you kind of wasted all your money. Nothing really has changed in that form. But what has changed is how seriously people take organic marketing, and how organic marketing is actually way more effective, in my experience, than paid advertising. And so at the time, I didn't know how to do organic marketing, like how to do it without ads, how to just post on social media, how to like do it organically without having to pay. And part of the paid advertising strategy is it's just very bro-y, meaning no offense to men, I love men and I'm all about it, right? I'm also very balancing my masculine, so I get both worlds, but it's just very kind of focused. It's very focused on honing in on pain to get people to take an action. And that never felt good for me to receive or to create. So I was behind the scenes of big brands, personal development brands who were launching programs. And it was all about how do we make this really painful for people to need to find a solution, and to see us as like the only like saving grace, basically. And that never felt good to me. And so once that happened, I also started realizing, well, how do I market myself if I don't have a big budget? Like I didn't have, $10,000 a month to be able to spend on advertising. And so everything that I had learned was just not applicable to people like me who were just solopreneurs. And so what I did is I started realizing that there's so much power in being able to share your message, be really clear, and do it very boldly, and post it in different platforms online. And that actually creates a tribe that has longevity, that actually wants to get behind you, and that you're not necessarily having to pay for it. They just are naturally attracted to you. And so what I did is I started helping coaches, because I was a marketer at the time. I always denied that I wanted to be a coach. I was like, coaches don't make money, because one of my mentors said that. It's like, don't become a coach. Coaches don't make money. And I literally thought of that forever. So I was like, I'm not a coach. I am just a digital marketer. And so I would do digital marketing for coaches, but I always wanted to coach. I always wanted to coach people in their marketing. I always wanted to coach people in their mindset. And I was maxed out having an agency, and I was burnt out. And that's when I just decided to close down the agency and really start thinking about my dream, my desire, which was to become a coach. And so I didn't know how to write copy for myself. I didn't know how to not do ads. I was like, okay, I had an idea in the shower one day. This is back in 2017. And the idea was to write 30 truths about myself in 30 days. And I knew that I could help people with marketing, with their message, with sales. I knew that I had a lot to give with mindset, but I just didn't know how to articulate it. And so I decided that over those 30 days, I was going to tell different stories and different things and say very bold things to essentially attract people to me or repel them. And I would talk about mindset, and I would talk about marketing. And during those 30 days, I attracted my highest paid client. At the time, it was a $15,000 client, which now that's like every day, that's normal. But at the time, it was my biggest client ever. And I was so excited that I did it without any ads. And so I continued to refine my process to write really compelling copy that works organically. And that's when things really took off. And I have a method and a process that I teach my clients. And I created a mastermind. And, 3.5 years later, here we are, $2.5 million. And for my clients, it's created over $1 million in revenue or more. I think I counted that last year. So I really believe that following your own voice and understanding what makes a compelling message without having to hone in on pain points, on making people feel shame around themselves, and instead empowering them to believe deeply in themselves so that they can make an empowered purchase decision and not back out and not get a refund. That is where the future of marketing really is.
Yeah, yeah, that's excellent. And I like how you mentioned also that like I forget exactly how you said it, but like your intention was to get some kind of reaction, like whether they enjoyed it or disagreed with it. And I
Yeah.
think that's a great point because so many people are afraid of like posting something because like what if somebody doesn't like this or doesn't agree with this? And
Yeah.
I think if you're really being truly yourself and if you like as you grow, like you're going to have people that are going to disagree with you. And it's not a bad thing. I think it's a sign of growth that you have these people that love you or hate you. If there's no reaction at all, you're probably not doing something right. If it continues to
Yeah.
be like that over time. And I mean, some
Yeah.
people would go to the extent of like really trying to be like as controversial as possible because like they know that that can get a reaction or get attention for them. Um, but yeah, I think that was interesting that you mentioned that. I'm curious, what was like an example of one of the truths that you shared that your audience reacted well to?
Great question. So at the time, I noticed how many people were talking about being vulnerable online. Like, share your vulnerability, be vulnerable, be relatable. And as a professional, as a person who understands psychology, and as a person who understands what inspires people to buy in personal branding and how to position yourself as both a leader but also a guide, right, for your customers, it doesn't help to just use Facebook or Instagram as your therapy session or as your diary, because this is not going to create authority. It's not going to have people tell you, give you their credit card. It's going to make them want to tell you, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Or,
Mm,
oh, and you're going to get lots of likes and comments and people saying like, I'm here with you or whatever. I relate, I relate. But in their mind, they're not going to see you as somebody that they're willing to pay because they feel like you're just one of them. And we are all one of them. But we also need to remember that we can be showing up as a hot mess online. We need to do it with elegant vulnerability. And that's one of the terms that I coined during that challenge. Now it's trademark and people use it and it's like a whole thing. So I created the term elegant vulnerability. And so the difference between being a hot mess online, which is, most people tell you just be vulnerable online. No, there are boundaries within that to actually create sales and to create a positioning that is aligned with you being a leader in the industry. And so elegant vulnerability is all about that. And the way that you can do it is simply by sharing a story where that can be very relatable, but share it adding the lessons that you learn from the story and cleaning up any part where you are blaming or accusing anybody of doing you any wrong, where you still have charge around it, where you still are blaming somebody. Like I told a lot of stories about my family. I told stories about different working arrangements that I kind of got myself into that were not ideal, but I did it with elegance because I wasn't blaming them. And I actually took my power back and shared lessons that made me a better human, a better leader, a better entrepreneur, a better person. Like people that I hired that were not the right fit, what I learned from that is very different when you come from an empowered place and when you do it with elegance, meaning when you share the lessons versus when you come from a place of victimhood, blaming other people or making yourself the victim of the story.
mm. Yeah, I think that's super important. Like, so like you're taking responsibility for everything rather than saying like, oh, this happened to me and this was so horrible and it was whoever's fault. And by doing that, like you show up as somebody who is in this place of power and responsible for themselves that you have the ability to help somebody else as well, rather than saying like, oh, this bad thing happened to me, I'm stuck here. And then everyone feels sorry for you and feels like, okay, well, yeah, same. but
Yeah.
I'm not ready to take out my credit card, as you said. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. These stories are the stories that allow people to connect with you on a deeper level as a human being, as somebody who goes through ups and downs. Like I just did the 30-day exposure true challenge all over again just this month after 5 years. So the first one was before I was making, multiple six figures. So that was like on my way there. And now being a multimillionaire, I did it again with all the lessons that I had learned that in the past 4 years. And really truly it's like when you get to a certain level, there are a lot of things that are not relatable, right? Like I'm not trying to be relatable anymore, right? But what I am doing is I'm bringing more of my humanness as I did back then for people to see like she is a human being. She can help me. She can teach me things, but she really gets what it's like to be in pain, to go through hard things, but to go through hard things and handle them with grace. So you basically are becoming an example of what's possible and giving people perspective shifts. And when people feel like they get a perspective shift when they read your content, they want to follow you. They want more of that because they are some people might be in the same situation that I am today, right? Like I'm going through a breakup. I can talk about my breakup and I can do it from a powerful place. And that's something that everybody can be going through, a lot of people. And so we have an opportunity to really reveal our true experience, but do it from a place of power and sharing the lessons that people can take away from it. And honestly, it's like the coaching that we need to give ourselves sometimes. Sometimes you sit down to write about something and you notice, oh, I'm still mad about that. Okay, so what are the lessons? So it's a very spiritual practice really, or very internal practice to the whole challenge. And I recommend everybody join and really just, I give you prompts, I give you examples of my posts. You literally will get to see all of them. And it really just helps you integrate the things that maybe you're not complete with yet and actually use them as content for you to be able to connect with your audience on a deeper level.
Got it. So yeah, I think the idea of like exposing that like vulnerability and flaws though can be something that's like really intimidating for entrepreneurs. So what would you say to somebody who says like, well, how can I overcome like this fear of that?
Download the guide. I don't know if I'm allowed to promote it. We can cut
Yeah,
this out,
sure.
but in the guide, I give you 6 principles that can help you get out of that fear. I wrote it a long time ago, so I can't remember exactly what they are, but it gives you a helpful perspective shift so that you can do it more confidently. But what I will say is that it's never easy. You're meant to be sweating when you press publish. Like don't wait until you feel comfortable to share the thing. You think about what is something in my life that has made me stronger, something that really sucked, something that at the time was really difficult. But what is something that I learned from and that made me stronger? And start there and start sifting through these stories, sifting through the things. And you don't have to start with the scariest thing, right? You don't have to start with the thing that you're like, oh my God, what have you? Start with the thing that feels easiest, right? Or the thing that you can get behind. Everybody has a different tolerance for discomfort, right? And so you don't have to go into the deep end and tell everybody everything today. In fact, I tell my clients this, you don't have to reveal everything about you in order to be authentic. Like I haven't told my audience probably 80% of my life, but because I like to keep my privacy, but I'm very open about the things that I feel comfortable sharing, that I feel like I'm ready to share. And probably I won't share a lot of things. Maybe someday I will. So it's not about feeling pressure. It's about really thinking, okay, what has made me stronger? What are the lessons that I learned? And how is this going to be helpful to my audience? How can this be helpful to my audience? Because it's not really about you. Nobody cares about your story. Nobody cares about your whatever happened when you were 8, whatever happened yesterday. Nobody really cares. Your job is to make you relevant to people and say, hey, I know you're probably, if you ever go through this kind of thing, or I know that as whatever your ideal client is, you might have gone through this. And so here are some of the lessons. And so you need to make it relevant to the people that you're speaking to. And sometimes you don't even need to force yourself to do that. You're just sharing your story very freely and authentically. It's just going to resonate with people. But that is one way of getting really comfortable with beginning the process of sharing your truth.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's not about just sharing everything that's ever happened in your life. It's about finding those stories that have a valuable lesson that can help your audience. And I think it's really interesting because like as entrepreneurs, like we hear things like what you're suggesting right now, but it is actually a skill. Like of course you know your own story better than anybody, but it is actually a skill to like think about like how can I tell my story properly? And so like in the ways that you're suggesting, like it takes conscious effort into thinking about like, well, where are the lessons here? What are the things that are going to be really helpful for me to share? And some of those things are, yeah, they may involve some moments in your life that were uncomfortable, but those are things that people can really resonate with.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. All right. So I also want to talk a little bit about pricing. Now, a lot of your programs, you have these like five-figure high-ticket programs, right? So what would you say to somebody who has a much lower price program and like they want to get to the level of being able to offer this higher priced program, but like number one, they're not sure like maybe what they should even be including in that, and probably even more so like they're not sure that what they can do is even worth that for their client.
Oh, interesting. Okay, they don't think that what they sell is even worth it. Okay, many things. So I teach this in depth in my programs, but in my content I talk about I talk a lot about it. So there's I wish I could say everything in like this 30-second snippet, but here's what I will say. I will say that first of all, if you know that you are creating an amazing transformation for your clients, then that's evidence that you are on your way to raise your prices, that you should be raising your prices. And here's why. Because every time that you coach a client or every time that you sell a course, every time that somebody goes through your process, your value is increasing. Your value as a course creator, as a creative, your value is increasing. And that happens because the more people go through it, the more they give you feedback, the more you upgrade whatever your process is. And so first things first is, yes, get yourself to a place where you feel confident in your ability to deliver a result. Maybe you don't have to have 100% results to everybody, because that results are not your responsibility. They're the client's responsibility. You are the facilitator, giving them tools. But at the end of the day, we cannot be responsible to create results for people. That is their responsibility. My results are my responsibility. Your results are your responsibility. And so understanding that your process is just a facilitator for those results to become more easeful, come with more ease with your clients is really important. So step one, become really good at creating a transformation in your clients. As you do that, you're going to realize your value is increasing and you're going to feel it. You're going to want to charge more, and you're going to be like, I feel like my course is just so valuable that it deserves, like I need, like it's too low for the transformation that I give. Now that's when you hit a ceiling, when you're like, but am I worthy of it? Should I be doing this? Am I ready? So I'm going to tell you a story about a client that was charging, literally had never paid any more than $300 to anyone to coach her. And she paid $10,000 for my program. She was not a premium client. She wasn't thinking about it. And she was only selling $100 sessions as a coach, as a business coach, $100 sessions. And she'd never imagined just paying packages. She didn't imagine that was a thing for her. And working together, we helped her create a method, and we helped her create a process that she would take her clients through. And that's when she started selling her packages at $7,000. It was the same thing she was teaching in her online course. It was the same thing because she had an online course and then she was selling like $100 sessions coaching on top of it.
Hmm.
And all we did is we just took the same process and we turned it into a transformational container where she was able to actually coach people and understand that the value is not just in the information of the course, but is in the application of it. And so if you are listening here and you are a course creator, know that every single person that buys your program is probably craving a little bit of deeper support. And there's a pool of people that would pay a premium for you to guide them through the process so that it doesn't have to take them as long. So that's the first layer, really understanding that people want your support. People want to pay you more. People want to shortcut the timeline of how long it takes them to get to the result. Now, the second thing you touched on is that they may not believe that it's worth it to the client. And so I would like for everyone to do an exercise that I teach my clients where you get a piece of paper and you create a little table with different columns: time, money, and energy. And I want you to make a list of the cost of inaction for your clients by not working with you in their lifetime. What is the cost of time? How much time are they going to be wasting in a lifetime if they don't work with you? What is the cost of money? How much money are they going to be wasting or not earning by not working with you? And what is the cost of energy? How much energy are they going to be wasting doing it themselves that they could just save without it? So I'll give you an example. A relationship coach or a marriage coach. People don't think that that's a really solid ROI, or like, if I pay you, I'm going to make money, because it's a relationship coach, right? Mm-hmm. But when I help a client with this, when you think about the amount of money that somebody will save by not getting divorced, how much do you think that might be? Just give me a number, Brian.
Thousands of dollars at least. It has to be, right? Even just the maybe legal things to deal with it, let alone splitting all your assets and everything.
Right. So if it's somebody who makes money, who makes $200,000, maybe an entrepreneur who has a 7-figure business, and you help them save their marriage, what is the value of that for the lifetime, for their lifetime? It's going to be more than $5,000-$10,000. So is it worth it for them to hire you and pay you $10,000 to save their marriage, or is it better for them to get divorced? It's going to be a no-brainer when you really understand the value of what you are selling. And we just don't think about it this way. We only think about money as a number. We think money is just a number, and we think we're taking the money away from people. And I want to invite everybody to really shift their perspective, that the way that you want to think about money is just a drop, is like literally a little bit of all the value that you are offering to your client. But your job is to take your brain to the place where you are fully aware of the value that you bring to your people. So if right now you think, oh my God, there's no way I could charge $5,000 or $3,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, there's no way. I gotta tell you, I have so many clients who say the same thing, and they end up getting five-figure clients, 6-figure clients, and they go from charging $83 an hour or $500 for their course. They do it because we show them what is the value of what you sell. Let's just get really clear on that. And then they get the confidence to be like, oh my God, I am underselling myself. And then they have the confidence to go sell it with conviction, because they know the transformation and the value they're going to create for the client. So it doesn't become a sticky, weird thing.
Yeah, exactly. When you can believe it and when you can understand it, then you're really in this position to be able to help somebody else understand it who wants to buy from you.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Juliana, so on the show, I like to have every guest ask a question to the audience. So if you could ask our audience anything, whether it's something you're curious about or something you want them to think about for themselves, what would that be?
That's a great question. I would say, think about your future self and the version of you who is already selling the number of courses that you want, or making the number of sales that you want, or charging whatever price you want. And think about that version of you. What would it take for you to start showing up as that version of you right now? That's it.
Excellent question. All right. Great, Juliana, thanks so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, if you hang out with me on Instagram, that's where I hang out the most. So my handle is at it's Juliana Garcia. That's ITS Juliana Garcia, and Juliana just with one N, no double letters. And also you can join the Expose Your Truth Challenge, which is julianagarcia.com/expose. Get the guide, it's free. It's gonna change your life. It's gonna give you so many content ideas. I upgraded it and gave you a bunch of sales prompts. So it's just gonna really help your business and get to know me a little more.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.